Wham! Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk. Intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
Good Saturday afternoon. I, however, am not Gary Wellings. I am Ed Bonderenka, his faithful co-host, because, well, first off, let's start out here. Welcome to the Drift Radio Show. We're on the air live, coming to you from our secret enclave deep in the bowels of the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. Our mission is to let you know what's going on. You can find out what's going on a daily basis if you get your news at thedailydrift.com. It's
the news you need to know.
There you go. And that's the voice of Alex Wassell, who's sitting in for me today. Wait a minute. If I'm here, how are you? Okay, I got it. So, I'm Ed Bonderenka. Welcome to Alex Wassell. And find him on Facebook and friend him. He needs more friends. I got to tell you, he needs more friends. And Gary Wellings is off on assignment, whatever that means. Derek, he can't get loose from in there, can he?
No.
Oh, okay, we're safe. Okay, great. All right. So, we're live. If it's a Saturday afternoon, just after 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, we're live. So if you want to join us, you can call us at 734-822-1600. We have a great guest on the line today, but we'll get to him in a minute. If you're listening to this, Larry, I got to do an ad first. So, folks, I got to tell you, the people that pay for this radio show are the advertisers in the Current newspaper. So if you would, please find your copy of the Current. Go online, currentonline.com, C-O-U-R-A-N-T, online.com. Visit our advertisers, buy from them, encourage them to take out even more ad space.
Much more.
Yes, and tell them you heard it here on The Drift or on the Current newspaper. And today we're featuring a guy I know, Mike Dudek, Hamburg Quick Lube. Now he's at 7554 East Michigan 36. That's Route 36. So when you're getting off of 23 and you're heading west on 36, you go down a bit, and there's that right turn, right at that light. Yep, and then he's off to the left. You can't miss it, right next to the Chinese restaurant there. He's got the car wash going, the Quick Lube, and he's at 810-231-0121. Takes credit cards, too, all kinds of them. And you can get a free car wash with the purchase of a full-service oil change. So you can't beat that. You go right there, one-stop shop. Get the car wash, get your oil changed all at the same time. Tell Mike I said hi, okay? Get your coupon in the Current or at currentonline.com. Thank you very much. So, once again, today I'm pleased to introduce our guest, Larry Lambert. He's an author. He's retired, I think, spy. I think he's a retired spy. They'll never tell you the truth on that one, right? And a noted raconteur. I love that word, raconteur. So, Derek, would you bring Larry Lambert online before I accidentally hang him up like I would Joe? Larry, you there?
I'm here.
Oh, good. I can hear you in my ears even. Yes. So, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Did I miss anything in the introduction? Would you like to add or subtract to that?
Well, basically, for the sake of your listeners, I started life as a U.S. naval officer, working with the SEAL teams, worked on different intelligence programs as well. Then I spent 21 years at the Orange County, California District Attorney's Office, working on primarily organized crime and political corruption cases. And then, more recently,
Larry.
I worked for. Yes, sir.
You had a large envelope of opportunity there, right? What do you call it? A target-rich environment?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
No, I work for the Department of Defense with the Counter-Narcotics and Counter-Narco-Terrorism Program Office, primarily against cartels in Mexico and things like that. And then for the last 5 years, I've been a private consultant. So I'm a private citizen.
Excellent. Well, once again, welcome to the show. Larry has a blog, and it's called Virtual. Oh my goodness.
Virtual Mirage.
Thank you, Virtual Mirage. If you Google Virtual Mirage, I go there every day, and sometimes he writes 2 or 3 times, so I got to play catch up because I work for a living. But Larry writes his blog, Virtual Mirage, and he gives his opinions on world news and personal items of interest to him, and it's very enjoyable. And I think you should check him out. There's also links to the books that he's written. He's a novelist also. What is it you've written? I know what they are, but why don't you tell us, Larry?
I wrote a book about the CIA in Laos in the 1960s called White Powder, and a brief series on cartel wars in Mexico, Bloody Mexico, and the Old Whore, and some other books.
Okay, and what is an old whore?
An old whore is a CIA case officer. Basically, they'll do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Excellent. Okay, so glad we cleared that up. And then you wrote Exiles from Eden, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So what I wanted to do is, because you've written about it lately and it's in the news, is I wanted to get your opinion, which you seem to have some pretty wise opinions, on Iran, as we were talking yesterday. And bingo, up in the news pops up the droning.
Down.
Yeah, down. Yeah.
Drone.
You go, Alex. You can do this.
The drone downing, folks.
Thank you, and that was Alex. So, when I was, as I told you yesterday, when I was hearing President Trump announce the way he did that he wasn't going to bomb them, first it was, well, this might be a mistake. I got the impression he was hedging, that he had news that it was a rogue element that did this and that it wasn't sanctioned by the regime itself. And we've got to remember that the Iran Revolutionary Guard Council, right, IRGC, that they are actually a little bit separate and even sometimes rogue from the mullahs. Is that correct?
Well, I can offer an opinion. I think that the supreme leader calls the shots. And I think if you were in charge of the Revolutionary Guard and you did something the supreme leader really didn't like get him involved in a war, you wouldn't have that position for long. What the supreme leader does is he buffers himself, because remember, he's the mouthpiece for God, and God doesn't make mistakes. So the supreme leader doesn't make mistakes. However, if one of the supreme leader's key people goes, quote-unquote, rogue, the supreme leader and God cannot be held responsible for that. So I think that the decision to shoot down a drone, basically to commit an act of war, I think that was sanctioned all the way to the top. Okay. I don't believe that it was a rogue element that just went off and did it. I just don't think that would happen.
Okay. Well, I guess I've watched too many movies then.
So I mean, there's different. It's an important thing to consider that Iran has been. This isn't the first incident. If it was one incident, isolated, maybe, but there've been a number of incidents that have been laid at their feet that are provocations to war, provocations to the U.S. specifically. So I have a hard time believing that the supreme leader wasn't involved in the decision making.
Hey, Larry, this is Alex. About a week or so ago, there was a post that came across the news. I saw it on Facebook, but it's the Iranians showing off the new missile defense system, and I find it sort of interesting. You know, a week later, they actually
the homegrown,
supposedly the home-developed missile defense system, and I find it sort of coincidental that a week or so later they shoot down one of our drones.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money on that. I mean, I think they're showing off capabilities. Of course, the homegrown system came basically from the Russians, but irrespective of that, I'm with you, Alex. I think that this is all part of their program. Iran's in big trouble. Everybody knows it. There's a lot of dissatisfaction at home. Unemployment's endemic. It's like 50 or 60%. People are poor. People are hungry. People are dissatisfied.
And for the sake of our listeners, why is that? In an oil-rich country?
Primarily because of sanctions the U.S. has put on them. I mean, they've been involved in adventurism and war in Syria and elsewhere. And so the U.S. has slapped very, very tough sanctions, and the Europeans have gone along with them. And they're having a hard time getting anything from outside Iran. Their money doesn't buy anything. And so they're in a very tight place as a government with a lot of dissatisfaction. Starting a war and, whipping up patriotic fervor is a way to deflect against that public dissatisfaction, to get their minds off their suffering and onto the war. And so they've been hoping the U.S. would do something short of decapitating national leadership so that they could rally the people behind it.
Okay. Hey, by the way, that brings up another question. You mentioned their dollars don't buy anything. What's the Rias or something, Reals or something? But
Reals.
Do they still trade in petrodollars, American dollars?
They have to.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That makes things even more interesting.
Oil's right, exactly. Oil's bought and sold in dollars, so they have to buy. They have to use dollars, and the real is not worth anything. So it costs them a lot of reals to buy dollars. It does. It pinches them, and they're obviously feeling the pain. Speculation that I've had, and I think I share it with a lot of others, is that they're trying to goad President Trump into doing something that would damage his election possibilities. They listen to CNN, they believe what they hear, and they think that he's teetering on the brink of being removed from office anyway, and they'd like to encourage that process because President Trump has not been a friend to Iran.
Right,
Unlike President Obama, who was obviously very close to Iran.
All right. I'd like to, for anybody who's tuned in a little bit late, I'd like to mention that, and this is not something I always remember to do, I'd like to mention that we're talking to Larry Lambert, and you can call in and ask us questions at 734-822-1600, or just tell us how stupid we are. We're open to anything right now. So, that's one thing I was wondering, Larry, given the pinch that Iran find itself in, the populace is unhappy, and we saw the Green Revolution a few years ago that Obama let and as far as I know, a golden opportunity to see regime change. At that time, he let that go right by because, as far as it appears, the mullahs are his friends. Do you have any opinion on that at first?
Well, Valerie Jarrett, who was the president's probably his closest advisor during his time in the White House, was born in Iran.
Yeah, Persian.
And she in Persia, right? She maintained a very, very close relationship with people in Iran. She had a very soft spot in her heart for Iran. And in the Middle East, and you find this, and I'll just also mention this with regard to former CIA director John Brennan, was very close to Iran, very, very good friend of Iran.
Is he really a Muslim?
Well, there's a lot of speculation on that. When he was sworn into office, he was sworn in on the Constitution. Some people say he didn't use the Bible, and some people say that he used the Quran, which he didn't. He put his hand on the Constitution, but there are a lot of people who are not very happy with Brennan. I happen to be one of them.
Me too.
Although
Alex?
I know Brennan, and I know General Clapper, who's his sidekick. But he was always very, very, very pro Iran, and in the world of U.S. politics, you're either pro Saudi Arabia or you're pro-Iran. I mean, they're the two main powers in the region, along with Israel, and you can't really please them both. You end up in one camp or the other. And the U.S. under President Trump has favored Saudi Arabia over Iran.
Yeah.
Larry?
So you can make of that what